this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time. I'm whacking some things off the to-do list that have been sat on there far too long. And I'm breaking my own rules. I always say, if you're a bit tired, don't play with your orchids. But I want this done. So tired or not, it's getting done. I might have to bleep some swear words out depending on what happens. The reason these two are coming off the wood is that they're not happy on there. Separate video about my reasons, but at the end of the day, old roots have failed badly, new roots are not attaching, then these two plants are not happy either mounted or with the wood they're on, or a combination of the two, so they're coming off. I suspect they will almost fall off. Now this one's actually wired on, and I think it's only got one single strand of wire, yeah, so that's going to come off quite easily, I suspect. I love it when they make me out a liar. Some of the older roots are still quite well attached, but I can tell that it's probably the wood that's the problem. On the grounds it's tearing the wood apart, which means it's soft. It's falling apart, it's rotten. So therein lies the problem, probably without a shadow of a doubt. Now I've got a couple of new growths on this one with some signs of new root activity in places, but I also have a shed load of dead roots, so I'm going to trim those off. Let's remember to get my scissors out of the alcohol, because soaking them doesn't necessarily do the job. It's the evaporation that does the killing, and as that's a relatively new discovery, reliable information from quite a few places, it's the rapid evaporation that kills. So leaving them soaking in there doesn't really do the job. Well, I've been doing that for years. So to try and break the habit and remember to take them out and let them air dry fast is not an easy thing for me to do, because it's not what I've been doing for so long. Now that's that one off. Well, that's going in the bin. That's not certainly not going to get reused. So that's that one. That came off relatively easy. This one's actually tied on with nylon. That one was Brassavola hybrid David Sanders. This is an actual species, nodosa. Let's see if this will come off reasonably easily. Where's that new growth? The last thing I want to do is break that. Yeah, see, that's just fallen off as well. One single root left behind that looked like it was trying to attach, but you can see, let's see if I can get that closer and try and sort of show this sort of thing, because it doesn't happen often. That was an active root, hit the bark and stopped growing. It's attempting to continue growing from a branch, but it's not doing very well, is it? So again, I'm pretty confident it's the wood that's the problem. So again, I've got a lot of old dead roots on here that I will trim off. See, now these can stay, these will branch, and even some of these down here, but these ones round the back that were touching the wood are no good. So I mean, see, that's just gone. Yeah. So I've got some trimming to do here with care, because some of these roots, like here, that's just starting to branch, and because it hasn't touched the wood yet, it's got an active growing tip. So I need to take care. I've got dead ones right next to live ones. So this will be a careful trim. And on this particular plant, it's just coming into growth on this area here. That's a lead. These two roots stop growing in the winter, but it's starting again. And then this area here has a new growth pushing out. That will start new roots in this area, and it's got another new growth here which will start roots in that area, and this has still got some growing tips. So a careful trim on those two. And then the total opposite, because this one's in a pot and it's going on a mount. I've been meaning to mount this Phalaenopsis for a long time, but I don't know what I'm going to find in the pot. It hasn't been in there a huge amount of time. But again, that's not the best of root systems. Some of these roots have just totally gone. In fact, quite a few of them have. That is not a good root system at all. this one's, see, that root looks totally dead, but it's branching, so it's not. And although it looks it, if you feel it, if I feel it, it feels really firm. So it's not dead, it just doesn't look good, as opposed to that one, which is dead. So you've got to go careful. See, that one's still plump. So although it doesn't look very clever, yeah, that one's okay here, but not here. So there's not a lot of point in leaving that bit. This is the old, so I'll leave that bit, even though it doesn't look good. So not a brilliant root system. There's an active growing tip on that great big long dangly thing. I'll see if I can sort of thread that round like that or something, so that it gets in some near amount. And the large aerial root it had has just died back and fell off in my hand, Your Honour. But this bit's firm, so that has potential to branch. And it hasn't long finished blooming, so and this old leaf down here isn't too good. You know, it's yellowing. It's old, its leaf, it's dying. So while I'm at it, I'll actually peel that off, because inside there is where the next lot of roots are going to come. And leaving the leaf on will make them struggle. As long as it's just fallen off. I was just checking to see if yeah, there's some stumps where some new roots ought to grow. I'm wondering whether to do another one. The less leaves it's got to... There's actually... now I can see what the problem is. There's scale in here, so we will deal with that while we're at it. I think they're dead. I think they've been dealt with. But yeah, taking a few leaves off means it's got less to support now with what is quite a small root system. And the area where the new roots should start, where the nubbins are, should encourage them to get going quicker. So that's going on a mount, as opposed to those two that have just come off. So I'll trim my roots, have a clean up, clear up the mess. I've already got, as I say, one reason for taking that Phalaenopsis out now is it gives me a Holey clay pot, because I'm getting short. So one out, one in. Keep me tag, I suppose. So that's the idea, but I need to have a clean up, get these roots sorted out on these two that have come off the mounts. Quick trim on this Phalaenopsis, but not much. And we'll go from there. I'll need to find a piece of wood for the Phalaenopsis on the grounds I'm obviously not going to use either of the two pieces I've just taken those plants off, because that's the problem with those, it's the wood. So it'd be pointless in reusing that. So I'll be back when I've had a clear up. Right, so I've had a good tidy up. We'll start with this David Sanders. I've very loosely got a tie round. I've got a feeling it's not going to stay there, but the idea is to hold it in an upright position while I get it in the pot. If it comes undone and flops after I get it in, it's not so bad because I can retie it, but I just want it to stay upright while I get it in the pot. Most of the older roots were in the centre, and they just came off in a lump, and I've had to go careful because although there's a lot of these are still viable, even though they don't look too clever. And as you can see, these what look like non-viable roots can branch out. Yeah, so always go steady when you're trimming. Don't go mad, you know. Anything that looks like it could grow, give it a chance. Now my problem with this plant is that's how it needs to be. Yeah, but where the new growth is coming out. So I'm going to have to put this over at a slight angle, or leave a hollow in the media so that that's got room to head skywards. What I've done is, I want to show you this because this new Orchiata bark that I've got, I've poured it out on here. You might think, why don't you tip it straight in the pot? Because it has undesirables in it. It has bits like this that are just like flaky. Yeah? And for the sake of 30 seconds, it's got to be worth going through. There's pieces of wood in there that aren't bark. Yeah? So for 30 seconds, it's worth just having a sort through. You might not get every bit of it, but the more you can get out, the better. Leaving just reasonable bark. So that's the reason I do it. And then we'll get some in there. And hopefully it won't all fall out the holes. I always get some falls out the holes, but it settles. Eventually a piece will jam in each hole and just keep the plant there. Now I'm not sure how deep I'm going to need to go. Where's that new growth? Around there. try and tease these roots in without breaking them. They will bend, I mean they're hydrated, they will bend. Now, I don't want this too deep in the pot, but I also don't want it too shallow. I think I'm going to stick with that. I can see where the, oh god, no, I'm going to have to move it. I just realised where the wire's going to have to go would have gone right across where the new growth is. So I'm just going to twist it round sort of 30 degrees or so, so that new growth is nowhere near where the wire's going to go. And then I'm not packing this in. This is for the plant to grow on, not in. It's another one of those, you know, the roots will grab hold of stuff, but they still like air around them. I mean, the Brassavolas, certainly nodosa, I mean this is a hybrid, but the nodosa and several other Brassavola species are used extensively in Cattleya hybrids because they have a similar growth. Where's that new growth gone? Oh, there it is. So I'm paranoid because I've only got one showing at the moment. I don't want to lose it by knocking it off or bending it or putting a wire across the top of it. Now, I don't want this buried. I don't mind if a few roots are still aerial. I just want it to sit reasonably firm, pulled down quite hard onto the top of that media. And then branching roots and new roots will just grab hold, pull themselves down, go over the edge of the pot. They can do what they flipping like, but I just need the plant to be reasonably firm to enable the roots to do their thing. So I'm just trying to find a little tiny hole in the side of the pot to be able to pull the wire through. And hopefully one wire is going to do it, because it's a bit late to put a second one on now. Let me just get the pliers, it just pulls easier with the pliers. It's got something to lever against. Hopefully I'm high enough in the pot with the plant to enable that wire to pull itself down. How are we doing? That's not bad. The plant base is not moving, it's the leaves that are moving. So I'm happy that that is firm enough in its pot. As I say, I'll be so careful with that new growth. I'm going to tuck a few bits of bark in around the roots near the new growth, but I do not want any bark near the tip of that new growth. You can put a bit more around the back here. That'll do. This type of plant does not want its rhizome buried. It wants to be sat on the media, not in it. The roots will get in it, not the plant. Right, I just need to fix that. Somewhere around there. It's quite tight. Make sure it's really tight. With a kink, then it can't slip back in again. And it only needs tucking over the top of the pot. It doesn't need twisting or anything like that. So that's that one done. New tag. It's David Sanders. Because one day it will be nice to think that Rose would come back and tell me off for pots that haven't got tags in. You have to have been following me for an amount of time to know what I mean by that. These were presented, these were a gift from Rose when she was very active on YouTube. Not so much now, and I'd like to see her back, but only when she's ready. So that's one done. Right, now I need to sort the other one out. I'll be back. It'll be exactly the same process basically. Before we progress, I've sacrificed one of the older growths on the grounds that when I videoed the earlier part of this, making the decision to take it off the mount, I did think to myself, is this something more serious? The only way to find out is get at the rhizome. Well, we have a nice green rhizome, so it isn't that. I haven't had to do that for a very long time. But given half a chance, I will always do that. I've been caught too many times in the past. So yeah, we have no signs of the dreaded, but what we did have was obviously a manky bit of wood that the roots were objecting to. Right, back to where I was. Okay, the Brassavola nodosa has ended up with not a bad root system. Luckily, a lot of the roots have pushed out over the top of the old roots that had died on the mount. So they haven't actually touched the wood. So that it's in the root system on this is in a much better shape than I was expecting. And I have new root growth and I have new actual growths, which I need to now take great care of, because there's 2 definite and a 3rd highly liable. And because this has got a better root system, it's going to be tight in this pot, but it doesn't need strapping up like the other one did. The few bits that are going to flop over sideways can just be allowed to do so. But I only have one path which I'm prepared to put the wire through to hold this in place, and it's the only place where there are no new growths or signs of new roots. So that is the most important thing in positioning this in here, is where the wire is going to go. The last thing I want to do is chomp off a new growth or an area where there are new roots. I'm just going to have to go that way. So I'm just trying to, the wire has to go, it can't go across the middle, yeah, because these things have 3 holes. So what I'm trying to do is utilise one of the actual Holey holes. There's going to be too many Holeys here somewhere, but still be able to aim at one of these little ones which is near the rim of the pot. That way the wire can be pulled tight quite high up the pot without having to cut all through the media to get to where I want it. This is just make it, wherever I try and place this plant, that wire is going to be very near a new growth. And I think that's about the only viable path, and that's not where I want the plant, because the new growths are near the edge of the pot and I want them in the middle. You're going to be a faff, aren't you? Which, given it's towards the end of the day, and I did say about not playing with orchids when you're tired, I hope it's not going to be too much of a faff, because there could be some language. I think that's about as best as I'm going to get it. But I didn't put any media underneath the plant, because there isn't room. If I put media in there, the plant would have been sat right at the top of the pot. And I at least want it to start down in the pot. If it wants to climb out later, it's welcome to do so. But to start it out, I want it near the rim of the pot, but not sticking out over the top. If it's sticking out over the top, everything that grows from that point on is going to go out over the top of the pot. Now, I'd like to at least get some of the new growths and new roots in the pot before it hangs over the side. If this wants to grow out over the side, down the side, and do its own thing, it's welcome to do so. As I've said before, with Brassavola nodosa, some of the best specimen plants I've seen in the past have been in pots, nearly. They started out in pots and then they headed off into the outside world at a rate of knots. Yeah, I think I've just about bypassed the 2 new growths into an area where there's nothing much going on, which is what I want. Now all I've got to do is try and find this silly little hole. See, on the larger Holey clay pots, these tiny little holes are a lot bigger and a lot easier to find. I can't even see what I'm doing here. Ah, there we go. I think I've found it. Yes. Gotcha. Right. Gotcha. Mess me about. I think before I pull that tight, I can get a little bit more in under that section, because that's where new roots are going to come from to go with the new growth that's just above it. That way I've got something to pull against. Right. Double check, no new growths in the area where the wire is. Yeah, we've got one coming out here, one coming out here, and one that's highly likely to come out there. Now that one's going to end up quite near the side of the pot, but I can't get them all in the middle without splitting the plant, and that reduces its strength. It might have looked prettier, but it's better to just keep the thing in one piece. Nice and tight. Give it a twist so that it can't pull back. And that's it. It's a bit dangly over the side. I could tie it, I suppose. No reason why not. Anyway, let's get the wire sorted out first. I'm not going to film mounting the Phalaenopsis on the grounds I've done mounts recently. I haven't done anything in a pot recently. That's the reason I'm filming these. And I certainly haven't filmed anything going in a Holey clay pot for some considerable time. And bearing in mind, obviously, new people join the channel. They might never have seen me use one of these before. There we go. Now I will say, whenever I do something with Cattleya type roots, big chunky fat things like that, when you're tearing things off of mounts or, you know, ripping old media off, you do a little bit of damage. It's unavoidable. It's not a big worry, but you know you've done it. And the best thing you can do is not water your plant for a while, which is why I watered these this morning while they were still on the mount. So they're hydrated, but now I don't need to water them for a while. And any little bruisings or bits of damage, it gives them time to callus over before you get them soaking wet again. That way you can hopefully avoid infections and the like. I can't guarantee it, but you stand a better chance of just letting those roots callus over a bit before you get them soaking wet again. I should just be able to put a... It's going to be one of those. These are so strong that they're just going to flop, I think. We can only try. Doesn't matter that they're quite close together. These growths have done their job. They've either bloomed or they're not going to because they're older ones. So the fact that they're all a bit squashed together doesn't matter. It's the new ones I'm after. They'll be the next ones to bloom, not these. So the fact that these are a bit squashed doesn't matter that much. There's still enough light around them to do their job. Okay, that's not exactly bolt upright. There's not a lot I can do without chucking a stake in there, which I don't want to do. I've got a feeling that's going to be one of these pots which is constantly falling over. But the new growth's around here, so that should counterbalance the older part of the plant by pushing the new growths out round here. So yeah, we've got one here, one pointing in this direction, and this one should come out here too. So that's that one, and that's nodosa. Let's get the tag in there. So it's not in the way of a new growth. And that'll do for that one. As I said, this is the end of quite a long day. I think 1, 2, 3, that's my 4th video today. You're not getting them all today. They'll get drifted in as and when, like on days when I don't feel like filming, I've got one sat there ready to go. That's why I film a lot together sometimes. And that's number 4 today. And there won't be a number 5. I've had enough now. Okay, thanks for watching, and see you next time. Updates will follow in due course. I've got new growths and new roots and things to, you know, to see how they do. So we can have a look at these in whatever, 2, 3, 4 weeks time, and see how they're doing. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.